Hey everybody, how you doing? I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World, and you saw that recently, in the last couple of weeks, I have been personally involved with the case of Judge Olu Stevens, the judge out of Louisville, Kentucky, who made a ruling in which he basically just agreed that a jury should have more diversity, and the defendant was acquitted as a result of a more diverse jury. And afterward, Tom Wine. The Commonwealth Attorney, which is kind of like the district attorney, pushed to have motions to have Judge Stevens removed from the bench for his involvement, for his decision to use his discretionary authority to get rid of a jury, which was it was a pretty bold move, but it wasn't outside the range of what he was supposed to do. At the same time, Tom Wine has kind of pushed this issue pretty hard. And a person that reached out to me is a person who lives in the same city as the judge. His name is Kari Muhammad. And actually, before I even begin to tell you why I'm speaking to Kari, I want to welcome Kari to Your Black World. How you doing today, man?
Doing good. How about yourself?
Doing very well, man. Very well. And now, Kari, afterward, I'll let people know I was personally involved in this. I actually went down and to some of the rallies and stuff like that on behalf of Judge Stevens. They had mediation. It got kind of heated. There was a lot of politics that kind of came into the situation, and then you emailed me to tell me something that happened to you when you went in for jury duty, which kind of floored me when I heard this story. And so I don't even want to really tell the story myself because I'm going to say it wrong. I'd rather have you tell it. Tell me what happened when you went in for jury duty after this situation occurred with Judge Stevens.
Okay. Well, I'll start off letting you know that this was not your typical jury pool. This was what they called a special jury pool, which was they pooled 120 people for one specific case. So it wasn't your typical jury pool where you may sit in a room and as cases go to trial, they pull jurors to go, out for those trials. So I was in a pool of 120. Basically, what we had was there was 120 people in a pool, in a jury pool, and they were basically there for one specific case. This was what they were calling a special jury. And this jury, it wasn't your typical jury pool where you pull for different cases, and they pull 40 to 41 people for those cases. So there was 120 of us. We went in on a Friday. Typically, jury pools would start on a Monday, but we went in on a Friday since it was for this one case. And they basically did all the basic swearing questions. Of course, anytime they're asking you questions, you take the oath. You raise your right hand and take the oath. To tell the truth or whatnot. So we went in, and the judge just asked us the basic questions if we were U.S. citizens or whatnot. And we went through that protocol, and then they scheduled individual interviews for the following week, in which I went in on that Monday, that following Monday. And basically, when you walk in the jury pool, there's the defendant is there with his defense team, and then there's the prosecution there, and there was the arresting officer, and then of course you have the judge. So it's a regular court setting. You're in the courtroom, and so they went to the point where they started to ask questions. The prosecutor, I think the first thing he went into was, just explaining all of the different penalties. He went right into explaining the penalties that were possible, and then he asked me a question. Which I was a little even surprised at that question to start. He asked me the question of, did I have an opinion, and I'm paraphrasing. He asked, do you have an opinion, or how do you feel about the situation between my office, with the office of my boss, Tom Wine, and Judge Olu Stevens, in which I started to answer the question, and the defense objected to the question, and so they both went to the bench, and they discussed whatever they discussed, and basically the prosecutor thanked me for questioning, and he sat down. So the judge did not let the question go through at that time. So moving forward to Friday, I actually made from 120 in the pool. I made it to the final 41 to be selected, to get selected for the final jury. They'll select the final jury from this 41 people, in which we went in as a group. the questions were individual questions, as they were not individual questions, they were group questions that could eventually be individual questions. So you go in, and basically everyone sitting in the courtroom, and the prosecution and the defense, they're facing you. The judge is there, um, and they just ask questions. Are you against the death penalty per se? And whoever raises their hand, you have the option of going up to the judge if you don't feel comfortable speaking in front of everyone, or you can just say from your seat, this is why or how I feel about it, and pretty much they'll move on or whatever. You basically state your name, and you state your juror number. So he was asking basic questions. He was asking some questions, have you ever been a victim, or anybody close to you been a victim of a violent crime? I believe I raised my hand on that one. And there was a line of questioning, and it was a waiting time because people were raising their hand, some going to the judge to explain, and some sitting in the chair explaining from their seat. So basically, moving forward, he got to a point where he asked if there was anyone in the room, if there was anyone in this pool who had an opinion or knew of the situation between Olu Stevens and Tom Wine. Uh, I knew that I had been asked this question on the Monday, so I started to feel. I had already explained to my wife at home that I felt like he was kind of trying to pinpoint me early in the week, and so I felt like, okay, I didn't raise my hand on that question because um, honestly, I hadn't formed an opinion, we'll say. So at this point, that wasn't the question wasn't specific enough as to how I felt about the situation for me to raise my hand. And at this point, I knew, I'm not going to play ball, basically. So they surprisingly, there were a few people that raised their hand. But the other part of it is, as I said, when you're in this pool, they give you the option of going up to the judge or speaking from your seat on how you feel about each question. On this particular question, everyone went up to the judge. No one was given, the option to say, "Hey, let me just say it from my seat." So I don't know specifically what was said by each individual as pertaining to that question. However, moving forward, it was the next question that was the bomb, and obviously to, um, I guess, to single me out of the crowd of 40, 41. And Before I tell you what that question was, I want to say that I had been privy by a few people, Judge, and a few other people, that when they do these pools, they're going to investigate your social media. They're going to investigate your Twitter or your Facebook or whatever it is that is pertaining to you. And that's where they'll form their line of questioning. So, anyway, the next question was, does anyone here know Boyce Watkins? And so I raised my hand, of course. He had me at that point. I was the only one to raise my hand, and a few people around me were in confusion, say, "Oh, who is that?" I guess you got a lot of work to do, boys. A few people didn't know you, but anyway, obviously the prosecutor knew you, and he knew that I knew you. So after he asked that question, once again, I'm moving forward to answer the question, and the defense, they objected again. Um, so they went to the stand, to the judge's stand, and mind you, I think the judge was. They went to the stand. I think the judge had become frustrated with the question because obviously it's 2, 3 times that they've gone to the stand. The prosecution is trying to explain why he's asking this question. And then the people beside me, closer to me, sitting around me, a few of them were like, "Well, look at the prosecution. He's very upset. They're at the judge's desk, at the judge's stand, and they're like, he's very upset, and he was fuming. He was upset. He and the defense going back and forth as pertaining to this question. So I think a person beside me was like, well, who is this Boyce Watkins? Why is he so upset about that question? So anyway, the judge, she says, she beckons to me and says, "Sir, could you come to the stand?" So I go to the stand. As I'm walking to the stand, the judge, now mind you, I said that I was told they will research your Facebook, Twitter, whatever it is. They will look into that. So as I get to the stand, the judge, she says to me, "Mr. Muhammad, you do have, I just want to make you aware, you have the right to be friends with, follow anyone you want on Facebook or social media, and you have the right to attend any rallies that you'd like to attend. That's your right. That can't be held against you." So at that moment, I knew I'd been investigated because we haven't spoke of rallies, but I do know that I have a picture of myself and things that floated around the city with me. I was at both rallies actually. Um, and so I was standing front and center at that rally with a "I support Olu" shirt on. The only person with the one, because I actually created that design for the "I stand with Olu," and I also made the T-shirt. So I basically told so she said, so basically she moved forward and she said, "Let's just go ahead and get this all out there." So obviously this had been a topic of discussion. The judge said, "Let's just get this out there. Let's clear it up. Have you formed an opinion regarding Tom Wine and Olu Stevens?" And so I said, "Judge, respectfully, if you don't mind, I'd like to answer the question that brought me up here first, which was, do I know Boyce Watkins, Dr. Boyce Watkins?" Because they were saying Boyce Watkins. I made it a point to say Dr. Boyce Watkins because I don't want them to minimize, who we're talking about here. So anyways, it was so I said, "Yes, I know Dr. Boyce Watkins. I've been following him for years, and he's become a friend and a mentor to me. I actually just graduated from his Black Business Wealth Academy, his Wealth Black Business School, um, and so the defense is kind of nodding like this is something we already knew. They've all obviously done their homework, and even the prosecutor is somewhat doing that, but he's frustrated. And we move forward to the judge asking, and then I said, "Well, and as far as the situation with Tom Wine and Olu Stevens," I said, "I support Olu Stevens." I said, I said I do graphics. I created the logo for that movement. I created T-shirts for that movement. I said, just explaining to them when I got to the rally that I was standing in front with the shirt on. I was beckoned by someone to come up front um, to distribute the shirts, at that point. And so, and also explaining that, um, and this is something that's going on in 50 states, all 50 states in every community. And I don't believe that Tom Wine has the power to basically make this about him. This is something that's happening in every Black community. So basically, the judge thanked me, the prosecution thanked me, and I went back to my seat, and that was basically how that went.
Did
But
they
yes, yeah,
did they put you? I assume you didn't make the final jury pool, right?
no, I didn't. That's I didn't make the final jury pool. I do believe the people that made the pool. There was one brother. I think he was roughly about 25, 26. He made the pool. I remember in questioning, he said that his family was basically um, law enforcement. His mother and father were law enforcement, and he had like an aunt and an uncle that were law enforcement. So he coming from a law enforcement family. Um, there was another sister that made the jury. I think she tried everything she could. She raised her hand and tried everything she could to get out of that jury. And she was explaining to them when there was a question asked. They were asking if she had ever. They were saying there's going to be and I'm telling you this so people can understand the types of questions that may be asked, because there's really no way to prepare for this. They were asking her, they were telling her there's going to be graphic imagery because this was a double murder trial. So there's going to be graphic imagery. There'll be evidence that'll be graphic. Do you think you'll be able to see that, being that you've been a victim of a violent crime or whatnot? Do you think you'll be able to see that and make, and be all right in making a good decision a fair decision in the trial. And she's telling them, well, it's going to bother me, afterwards. And she's really telling them basically, I don't want to see that, but she got chose. She got chose for the jury. I believe there was another lady. I believe there were, I want to say three. I was trying to count. There was three or four uh, black women, and then there was the one black male, the younger brother with the law enforcement family. So that's who basically got picked.
Okay. So this is interesting. So we can say that. I mean, some people might argue that you weren't eliminated just because of your race. It's more
Yeah,
so, you're a certain kind of black person.
yeah,
And so that's disturbing in itself. I think it's interesting. I wonder. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not enough of a legal professional. I'm not any kind of legal professional, but I don't understand it well enough to know, just why this question could be perceived as being discriminatory or not. I know it seems weird,
yeah,
because if you think about this, you were effectively singled out because of who you were friends with on Facebook. And,
yes,
and if any of us got judged by who our Facebook friends were, we wouldn't be eligible for anything.
yes.
I probably got all kinds. I probably got killers, or you never know.
Drug
So
dealers, all types.
right,
Yeah,
a child
yeah,
molester too. I don't know. You know
yeah,
what I mean? Like I don't
yeah,
know what my Facebook friends are doing. I got thousands of them.
yeah,
And I think that that's interesting because it almost seems that the system decided you were guilty by association.
yeah.
Period.
Well,
That
the
you
the
know.
way that the way it works, boys, is basically the defense's job, and this is what's been I've been educated on it. I made sure I was for this interview. The defense's job is to find anything they can to eliminate anyone that they think can be influential to the jury. So anyone that is outspoken, any person that they see may have an influence on the jury when they go to make that decision, that's the person they're going to target to try to eliminate. So if you're on your Facebook or social media and you're very outspoken, and a lot of people tend to see that you're influential, they look at the comments, they look at what people see and how many likes. We might not look for that stuff, but they're looking at likes and those types of things. So it seems that they're looking to eliminate people that may be influential and not basically give the decision that they're wanting. That's what they're looking for,
Right,
basically.
right. To me, it's
Yeah,
the same reasons that the government killed black leaders.
yeah, yeah,
That's it. I mean, anybody who can influence other people, especially other people of color or even people in general,
yeah,
that person becomes a threat. And it sounds like you
yeah.
were a threat. Wow. Well,
The sad part is it's legal. Like everything
yeah,
they did is legal. That's the
yeah.
bad part about it. Yeah,
Well, I think that's one of the interesting issues is that because there are just, there are so few of us in this country, attorneys all over the country. I've been researching this. They go through a lot of work with the prosecutors that want high conviction rates. They go through a lot of work to eliminate black people from the jury, and it's rare that they will admit that that's what they're doing. But there was actually a case that hit the Supreme Court not too long ago. I need to look at the status of the case,
out of
but
Georgia,
yep,
in
out of
Georgia.
Georgia.
Yeah,
Yeah, where they
yeah,
put they
yeah,
put the word B, and they said we need to eliminate as many B's as possible, and it turned out the B's were black people,
yeah,
and so that's kind of what has happened because discrimination is legal.
yeah,
In this system, that's why we don't have diverse juries is because they can use these peremptory strikes, get rid of people for any reason, and it just so happens that the people they get rid of are black. Why? Because we're the ones who actually have the experience and the understanding to actually challenge the judicial system.
yes.
So go ahead, please.
And it's strange to me because it's almost like saying we don't they almost like we don't really care about our own people, to the point where here we are in a murder trial where a black man murdered two black men. Well, I want justice for both of them. If the black man that they're saying did the killing is innocent, I want him to have justice and to go back home to his family. But if that brother's guilty, then I want justice for the two brothers that got killed. So definitely, and that's what I also told the judge. My last words were to her, and this was a quote. You can quote me directly on this. This is the last words I said to her. I said, Your Honor, there's not any type of situation that you would bring up that would prevent me from being fair in my decision if I make this jury. That's what I told her. So it's like both sides. We want justice for if the brother's innocent, we want him to go home to his family. if the brother's guilty and he killed these two brothers and they're dead because of something he did maliciously or whatnot, then we want him to go to jail. That's the way that it works, and we have the ability to make that type of determination and be fair in that aspect also. But they want to paint it as if we do not. And
Right, right,
yeah,
and that's the thing. I mean, it's almost as if you have people, like the Tom Wines of the world, who really want justice to be administered by white people. They really want
yes,
that form of white supremacy in the system, where it says, "Look, y'all need to be over there. Y'all need to be defendants and and whatnot. And we don't even want y'all as judges because they're trying to get rid of Olu, right? Because he used his judicial authority to make a decision they didn't like. So it's almost as if they're saying, almost like if you look at the NCAA, we want you on the court. We don't want you as coaches. We don't want you making this money in the prison system. We want you as inmates. We don't want you as guards, and we don't want you making money from the system. We want to make money from you. You go to
yeah,
the educational system. Yeah, we want all the students, the black students, but we want the white teachers, right? HBCUs
yeah,
even sometimes are like that, where they're run by people who aren't black, and so in a way, it's just peculiar. And I think that in the city of Louisville, what I'm really aiming for, because I had an interview today with somebody in that city about this, a news outlet, and I said, before you start asking me nitpicky questions about the situation, about the judge said this and his wife said that and all these other things, you need to ask me, the question I need you to ask me is why we're even asking the question. Why is he being challenged anyway? Why is this judge who made a decision that was well within his rights to make, why has it even gotten to this point? If he had been a white man, it never would have even gotten to this.
yeah,
And in a way, it reminds me of all the complex things that happen with brothers on the streets when it come to police. A cop stops you for no reason. What are you doing out here? Where are you going? Show me your license. Next thing you know, one thing leads to another, and then
yeah,
all these other things happen because of the initial interaction. So the question should not be, well, did he, when the officer grabbed him and put him up against the car, did he push back and did he try to assault the officer? Like, you shouldn't be asking those questions. The question you should be asking is, why did you stop him in the first place?
first place,
Right,
yeah,
right.
yeah,
Because if you hadn't done that, then you wouldn't have had this whole chain of events that occurred as a result of this racial profiling. So,
yeah.
so really, it's interesting that you describe your racial profiling, which occurred where they went through your Facebook page and held you accountable for one friend out of how many Facebook friends you got? What, you got,
Oh
500?
man, maybe over 1,000, a little
You
bit,
got over a
yeah,
thousand Facebook friends, and
yeah,
they literally singled you out and eliminated you because of one person. You and
yeah.
I have tell people, have you and I ever met in person or talked extensively before today? We
We
might have
had
met once,
we
right?
met at the rally, and that was
Yeah,
it. Yeah,
and
we
it
met
was like
at the rally. Yeah,
like 2 minutes. It was like literally
yeah,
take a picture. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like, how you doing, man? Nice to meet. It was like that. It wasn't
yeah,
like we've sat around at the table for hours conspiring on how we're gonna take down the man. We haven't
yeah.
done that.
No,
And so for you to be punished because of that connection, which I mean, it wasn't any deeper than any connection anybody has with people on Facebook, really.
yeah,
It's crazy to me. It's
yeah,
really crazy. But I think that really just shows the depth of the persecution. And so what I really think that people really want to focus on is very basic. Take it back to kindergarten, right and wrong. We know that all white juries are wrong, diverse juries are right. We know
yes.
that justice and fairness are right, that injustice is wrong. We know the system is filled with injustice. That's what we should focus on. Because if we get caught up in the nitpickiness, what's going to happen is the
Yeah.
people in that state are going to miss a great opportunity to really change this situation for the better, change the
So,
system for the better.
and this is yeah,
Go
this
ahead.
is an opportunity to change, and we really got have to take the focus. Unfortunately, we need to take the focus off of Olu Stevens and Tom Wine. We can use them as somewhat of a reference, but we need to take the focus off of them and move on to, as you said, diverse juries is what we need to be focusing on. And we need judges and the black judges and black attorneys. We need them to be proactive so that we're not reactive in educating our community on registering to vote and how that in turn goes into jury pools. Home ownership is how they pick jury pools. When you pay your taxes is how they choose jury pools. So there's a lot of different things that we need to be educated on. And if the black judges and attorneys are proactive, we don't need them out in the public speaking. But if they're proactive in educating us and saying, you know what, I'm going to hold a class just like you do for business. They say we're going to hold a class for jury education or for voter education, and we're going to show you the totality of the effect that it has when you register to vote. You might not feel like your vote counts, but it definitely your vote trickles down to a man sitting on trial.
Well, let me jump in
Yeah,
and say let me jump in and say
yeah,
this too. Here's what I think makes it complex, especially for the people in the state in that particular state who happen to be Democrats, who think the Democrats are our friends, which I don't think they
yeah,
are, because Tom Wine's a Democrat, which it fits in the plantation system that you have in a lot of places in the South, like Kentucky, with the powerful whites kind of using the propped up Negroes to kind of control the masses. That's kind of what
yeah,
So you got the field Negroes like us, the overseers, who kind of make sure we stay in line, and then the plantation owners who kind of get all the benefits from the system. And the problem that I have with some of that is that if you look at Tom Wine's track record, you can see where people like him they're glad to sign up for programs to go and educate the public on how to show up for jury duty. They will say I support diverse juries. That's what I
yeah,
want. The question to me is, do you really support diverse juries? Because if you supported diverse juries, you wouldn't have acted a fool when Judge Stevens got rid of your undiverse jury and
yeah.
got you a diverse jury. So your actions are not consistent with what you're saying, number one.
Same.
But then if you look deeper and you look at the fact that prosecutors are rewarded, they pride themselves on high conviction rates. Well, including black people in the process is not going to improve your conviction rate, because you're not going to get that privilege of sending innocent black people to prison. That's because that gap in
Prison. Yes.
conviction rates comes from the fact that these white juries will send an innocent black person to prison because he looks scarier. He looks like the guy they saw on Empire that night or whatever. But
Yeah.
then the other thing too that's interesting is, you have these folks, these plantation type people, like the Tom Wine types of the world, who will say to black people, "We want y'all to show up for jury duty. We want y'all to come in." But then what happens when they get in the jury pool? They nitpick them like they did you, and
Yeah.
they will eliminate you. Unless you somehow show them and you fully convince them that your thinking is so in alignment with white America that you're acceptable to continue their white supremacist agenda, right?
Yeah.
Because white supremacy works best when a black person is implementing the system, right?
Yeah.
Because then you really get fooled, right? So okay, he's a good black kid. His father's a police officer. He believes in law and order. He watches the O'Reilly Factor. That's the black man we want on our jury, because then we can say we have a diverse jury when we really have no diversity. We have a black man who thinks like us, who's going to send this poor black man to prison, right? Well, we don't want Kari Muhammad, we don't want Boyce Watkins, but we will take Tom Smith because he's gonna do what we want him to do. And you know what it makes me think about, man, is it makes me think about how, when I was in academia, we had a lot of universities that would say, we really want to hire black people, we really do, we really want diversity, we really do, right? So what they would do is they knew they were being measured not by how many black people they hired, but by how many black people they interviewed. So what
Yeah.
they would do is they would call in every black person on earth for an interview, and it would waste their time, because what they would do is they would go through and they would strike them, just like the peremptory strike.
Budget.
They
Yeah.
would strike them. They would say, "Oh, yeah, he was good, but he just wasn't a good fit." And you say, "Well, what does that mean? What do you mean he wasn't a good fit?" "Oh, he just wasn't a good fit." There was no accountability. Do you understand? They
Yeah.
can eliminate you for no reason at all, and that's what they do with these jury trials. They have the peremptory strikes where there's no accountability. Same thing, like these states where they have these at will laws, that at will employment laws that allow you to fire somebody for no reason, no accountability. So what happens? The black man is the first one to be fired, right?
Yeah.
He's the one that least
Be.
likely to get the job. So when you have systems where there's no accountability, no meaningful oversight, no true enforcement, you're gonna have racial discrimination as a result due to this white supremacy. That's what I'm seeing here. I'll let you get the last
Yeah.
word, man. But that those are my thoughts on this.
Yeah. Well, boys, I just say, man, we need to really, especially in Louisville. I think I heard Divine say earlier, Jay Alexander, he said that, Louisville was the part when the slaves were coming from the South. They got to Louisville and they couldn't cross the river. So they just said, you know what, we'll stay here. You know what I mean? So this is the part, this is the, so you have a plantation mentality here. But we really need to just pick. We don't have to have all of the successful programs that we had in the past. The Black Panthers. We don't have to take those programs in the entirety. Just take what worked from those programs. The Black Panthers were very good in educating themselves on the law and their rights. We need to take that small part of the Black Panther Party, take the small part of the Nation of Islam where it's due for self, and create businesses and have farms. And these are the things, when we create value in our community and we create value for ourselves, then being on a jury is important. Then being a voter is important. Then you start to value yourself. You don't even care to be a part of what they have going on. Because one thing I can tell you, I didn't see any Asians down there, and I don't see any complaining about being down there either. And they stay away from all of it. But we really just have to, focus on building ourselves up, you know what I mean, and adding value to us, you know what I mean. And that doesn't mean we hate anybody else. That just means that we need to start valuing ourselves, doing what we need to do. And as far as juries, I'll say this last thing. Um, what was more discouraging, and almost as discouraging to me, when than hearing your name and been pinpointed for that reason, was when I was in a room with a few people that I care dearly for. I'll just say that. Um, and the one thing that was most discouraging, and I start to see more often, is when I said I had jury duty. The first thing everybody in the room started doing was telling me how I could get out of it. And that's the mentality we got to change. Let's stop trying to find a reason to get out of jury duty, and let's try to focus and get educated on the law and the process, and try to get on the jury so that we can set innocent people free, and we can put guilty people where they need to be. And pretty much that's all I can say.
All right. Well, those are great words. It's a great way to finish the conversation. I want to say thank you for sharing your story. I'm so glad you sent me that email, which came on a Saturday morning. I couldn't believe what I was reading.
Yeah.
I assumed that I wasn't their favorite person. That much I knew,
Yeah.
but had no idea that it went that far. And I don't. Again, I'm not a lawyer, but I couldn't help but think to myself, is that a violation of the law? I mean, that doesn't. I mean, you can't. How can you say that you're not racially discriminating when you ask questions like this?
Yeah.
I mean, I'd love for them to ask white folks, how many of y'all watch the O'Reilly Factor? How many of y'all, support Donald Trump?
Trump. Yeah.
Right. They need to ask
Yeah.
questions like that. Did
Yeah.
you like? We went on your Facebook. We saw that you hit the like button on Donald Trump's Facebook page. So what does that say about you? But they don't do that to white folks. They do that to black
Yeah.
people. So the spotlight is on us, and it's not fair. Well, thank you, man. I appreciate your time. Thank you
All
so
right.
much for this, brother.
I
I
thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Look forward to working with you in the future, Dr. Boyce.
Absolutely, brother.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right. Well, everybody, this is Mr. Kari Muhammad out of Louisville, Kentucky, who was brave enough to share his story about what happened when he went into the jewelry pool. And me, I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World. And I just want to encourage you, listen to what he said as far as getting involved in the system, being smart about valuing yourself, and keeping things simple. Don't let people nitpick their way to convince you that blue is white and that red is purple. Keep it kindergarten if you have to, meaning right is right, wrong is wrong. We know that all white juries are a poison on the system. We know that it can be changed if people have the political will, and that's what we need to focus on. So until we meet again, please stay strong, be blessed, and be educated. We are gone. Peace.